than 200 billion stars present in the Milky Way galaxy, but neuroscientists estimate the number of synaptic connections in the average 3-year-old is close to 1 quadrillion. After that, a refining process occurs, leaving the average adult with about half that many, or roughly 500 trillion synapses. Alaska is obviously the most northern state in the US, but thanks to its Aleutian Islands, Alaska stretches right up to the edge of the Western Hemisphere at the 180-degree line of longitude, which is the boundary between the Western and the Eastern Hemisphere, and across into the Eastern Hemisphere all the way up to the edge of the Russian Federation. This makes it the most northern, western, and eastern state in the United States. Heroin was once used to treat children's coughs. Bayer, the German pharmaceutical company that produces aspirin, commercialized heroin in the 1890s as a cough, cold, and pain remedy. What's really shocking, however, is that Bayer marketed heroin for use in children as late as 1912, years after reports began to surface that it could be a dangerous drug. In 1914, heroin was restricted to prescription-only use in the US and eventually banned by the FDA altogether in 1924. See you next time on Bet You Didn't Know, compliments of Sigismund Consultants, Inc.
This is News Talk Radio Guyana, 103.1 FM. Drink Pepsi Black from Max Taste, no sugar. Pepsi Black time, 18 hours or 6 p.m.
The news from Guyana, the region, and the world. Compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom and powered by DemeraraWaves.com.
The news comes to you with the compliments of Kentucky Fried Chicken KFC. With the news at this time, I'm Dennis Chabrol. Good evening. First, the highlights. We tell you this hour that the president of Guyana, Irfan Ali, today appeared to back down from his long-held position that he would not be meeting with opposition leader Joseph Harmon to discuss key constitutional appointments. Government says it will be circulating a draft amendments to Guyana's electoral laws next week. The way is now clear for children ages 5 to 11 in Guyana to receive a COVID jab with the approval by the American Food and Drug Administration of the Pfizer vaccine. In the Caribbean, the Pan American Health Organization has announced that new salt reduction targets for food products to help people in the Americas, including the Caribbean, reduce consumption of sodium. Opposition senators in Antigua and Barbuda have boycotted Parliament in protest against the COVID vaccine mandate. Internationally, Saudi Arabia has recalled its ambassador to Lebanon and given Lebanon's envoy 48 hours to leave Saudi Arabia and announced a stoppage to imports from Lebanon. The details of these and other stories in a moment.
Hate to stand in lines? Don't worry. KFC has got you covered with their drive-thrus, which are open from 9:30 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. at Movietown, Blissingen Road, Mandela Avenue, Breedenhoop, Parika, and now the Amazonia Mall. That's right, you can drive through at 6 of their 9 locations. Remember their current opening hours, 9:30 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. Go on down and let your taste buds savor the spices today. KFC.
It's finger-licking good.
And now the news in detail. President Irfan Ali today appeared to back down from his long-held position that he would not be meeting with opposition leader Joseph Harmon to discuss key constitutional appointments.
I don't know about heeding any call. What I know is that you have a president who will fulfill his constitutional mandate. And my constitutional mandate in the appointment of various constitutional office holders will be done in full conformity with the requirements of the Constitution. I assure you this.
Opposition leader Joseph Harmon says the president must now initiate the needed consultations.
You know, it's over a year now that this backward and forward is going on and so on. And Ali is now saying he's prepared. If he's prepared, let him do it. it is for him to do, right? It's for him to do. So I think the media should ask him, when is he going to do it? It is the president's office that invites the leader of the opposition to consultation. And it's not for me to write him and beg him to do it. So he must do what he has to do.
President Ali has also committed to making appointments for all independent commissions and the state boards in accordance with the set norms of appointing opposition members to those bodies.
Anything this president does will be in line with the Constitution. You can go to bed and sleep comfortable, enjoy the best of dreams, knowing that in reality, you have a president that will do everything in keeping with the Constitution of the Republic of Guyana.
Mr. Harmon says wide consultations are expected and he expects good faith talks with the president.
But there are several constitutional consultations which are required under the Constitution of Guyana. And I would expect that President Ali would seek to address his mind to deep consultations and to ensure that we don't just cherry pick some issues just to put it out there, but that consultations will be genuine, that it will be about moving Guyana forward, about recognizing that the opposition represents over 50% of the people of this country.
President Ali says he's prepared to drop all preconditions to engage with the opposition leader.
Let me be very clear. As I said, I am fully committed to abiding by every aspect of the Constitution. There is no precondition to fulfilling my mandate in accordance with the Constitution. But there is an issue, and this is outside of that mandate in relation to my constitutional role, where you have someone who is continuously saying that this government is illegitimate. So he has a moral problem. How does he explain talking to some government he is claiming is illegitimate? That's his moral problem. And that will expose his duplicity.
The People's Progressive Party and President Ali have been coming under pressure from the international community to engage in good governance talks. There were several calls ignored by the president to meet with Mr. Harmon. President Ali says a draft of the reformed electoral laws will be released to stakeholders in the new week. The president says he has instructed the Attorney General Anil Nandlal to ensure the release of the draft for timely review by stakeholders.
And what we are working on is to have this the draft legislation circulated sometime next week among all the stakeholders. We have to have an efficient time frame on this. I've also asked him that circulation be done sometime next week, and that 6 weeks be given for the review and for comments on the draft legislation. So that will be done next week, and 6 weeks for the review, so that we can expeditiously move forward with this.
That's President Irfan Ali. The draft was prepared by the executives of the People's Progressive Party, PPP. The Attorney General had previously stated that the draft reforms would be dispatched to the opposition, the public through the media, and in the National Assembly, where the opposition would get another opportunity to make its views known. The PPP has said that based on alleged electoral irregularities at the March 2, 2020 general and regional elections, the legislation will be amended to minimize the chances of skullduggery. The opposition Partnership for National Unity plus Alliance for Change has also accused the PPP of electoral fraud at last year's polls. A number of its party members and current and former officials of the Guyana Elections Commission are before the court on electoral fraud charges. Escaped prisoner Capildeo Gangadin was recaptured on Friday morning by police only after he bolted from the Lusignan prison. A statement by the Guyana Prison Service says the double murder accused was recaptured around 9:30 a.m. in the vicinity of Underneming, West Magdamarara. Gangadin was at the time of the recapture in a minibus going to Purika, East Bank, Essequibo. Police say they were tipped off about the escapee's whereabouts and set up a roadblock at Underneming Public Road where he was rearrested. Gangadin is being questioned by lawmen. Director of Prisons Nicklin Elliott says officers who fail to adhere to the established security rules in order to maintain a secure and efficient environment in the prison will be sanctioned. The Ministry of Health says the younger people below the age of 40 years are the majority of persons not fully vaccinated. During Friday's COVID-19 update, Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony says that the age category is critical to reaching herd immunity and reducing infection.
For the 39 to 18 age group, that we have seen 69.9% coverage for first dose. And for second dose, that's at 39.1%. So here we start seeing the group of people who are not coming back for second dose. So older people generally have taken both doses, but with the younger population, most of them, they just did a first dose, but they didn't take the second dose. And if you don't get both doses, then you wouldn't have the benefits of the vaccine.
The health minister says the ministry is focusing on getting older people, 60 years and above, to be fully vaccinated to reduce deaths from COVID.
So let's break that down, 60 and above, because they're more at risk. We have been able to get about 77.5% of that population to get their first dose vaccines. And for second dose, that population is at 63.5%. So what we need to do is bring both of these numbers up closer to about 85%. And if we are able to do that, we will start seeing that the death rates, hospitalization rates in this age category would drop significantly.
Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony. He says middle-aged persons being fully vaccinated will contribute to the decline of COVID-19 infections and deaths overall.
In the 59 to 40 age group, first dose is at 74.7%, and second dose is at 52.8%. So again, these numbers, if we can get them up into the 80s, again, we'll see a significant drop in cases, in hospitalization, and deaths.
As of Thursday, October 28th, the ministry has administered 381,013 first doses and has fully vaccinated 242,327 adults. There are 27,276 partially vaccinated teens and 18,058 are fully vaccinated. Some 6,000 Guyanese are to receive hospitality training by Barbados to boost Guyana's tourism sector, especially in the area of hospitality. President Ali made the announcement on Friday.
Knowing the needs that we will have personnel in the hospitality sector, we agreed with Barbados that they will support us in the training of 6,000 Guyanese for the hospitality sector. You know, Barbados has an established world-class hospitality program, and they're going to support us in the training of 6,000 Guyanese who will function in the hospitality sector.
The president says initially 6,000 persons will be trained to cater for investments coming to Guyana in the tourism and hospitality sector.
In terms of the 6,000 Guyanese, this will be an ongoing, but why an ongoing effort? But why we have to move aggressively with the 6,000 Guyanese now is because we have a lot of investment in the hospitality sector that is coming, and we need to have the technical capacity, the human resources to manage and to to work in those hotels and so on that are coming. The need for training is immediate.
President Ali says the two Caribbean states have agreed to market both countries' tourism products as a joint venture.
Direct support for tourism sector with exchange airtime of 45 minutes per week for the reciprocal promotion of both countries. So we agreed, both Prime Minister Motley and I, that we'll exchange 45 minutes of airtime for the promotion of Barbados in Guyana and for the promotion of Guyana in Barbados. In addition to this, we agreed on working out the mechanism for the twinning of our tourism product, for the joint marketing of our tourism product, and to promote Guyana and Barbados as a common destination.
That's President Irfan Ali. Guyana and Barbados will be embarking on a number of other joint developmental, trade, and investment ventures agreed to by the two heads of government. The way is now clear for children ages 5 to 15 to receive a COVID jab with the approval by the American Food and Drug Administration of the Pfizer vaccine. Guyana's Minister of Health has said that the ministry will begin administering a jab to children in Guyana as soon as the United States FDA approves emergency use of the jab for the age grouping. The Food and Drug Administration on Friday, October 29, paved the way for children ages 5 to 11 to get Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine. The vaccine has been cleared for kid-sized doses, just a third of the amount given to teens and adults for emergency use. One more regulatory hurdle remains, and Tuesday advisors to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention will make more detailed recommendations on which youngsters should get vaccinated, with a final decision by the agency's director expected shortly afterwards. A few countries have begun using other COVID-19 vaccines in children under 12, including China, which just began vaccinations for 3-year-olds. But many that use the vaccine made by Pfizer and its partner BioNTech are watching the U.S. decision, and the European regulators just began considering the company's kid-sized doses. Guyana's COVID death toll is now 910, with the passing of 5 unvaccinated and 1 partially vaccinated person who succumbed to the disease on Thursday, October 28. The ministry says there are 73 persons hospitalized, of which 17 are being treated in the COVID intensive care and 56 others are hospitalized, not seriously sick. The data shows a decline from more than 3,000 persons who've tested positive and instructed to stay at home. That figure is now 2,816. The ministry has registered to date 35,444 positive cases since March last year, and 31,633 of that number recovered from the disease. In the Caribbean, the Pan American Health Organization, PAHO, has announced new salt reduction targets for food products to help people in the Americas, including the Caribbean, reduce consumption of sodium. PAHO says that after adoption by countries, the new targets will require regional manufacturers to reformulate processed and ultra-processed food products, where most of the sodium consumed in diets comes from. PAHO says its revised 2022 to 2025 regional salt reduction targets focus on reducing the sodium content of commonly consumed processed foods such as bread, cereals and grains, processed meats, and dairy products. The new targets are a more detailed update of a first set developed in 2015 and present maximum sodium thresholds for 10 categories and 75 subcategories of food products to be reformulated. Opposition senators of the United Republican Party of Antigua and Barbuda have boycotted a sitting of Parliament today after the Speaker called for proof of COVID-19 vaccination. The Speaker by letter informed members of Parliament and senators that for Friday, October 29 sitting of the National Assembly and subsequent sittings, members are required to provide proof that they were vaccinated against the COVID-19 virus before entering Parliament. The opposition senators boycotted the sitting today and issued a strong letter of rejection to the Speaker. The letter questioned the Speaker's authority to instruct senators when the standing orders clearly state that the President has general control and the direction of the precincts of Parliament. The letter, signed by several opposition senators, stated that the Speaker is beyond his authority. The senators also questioned what public health order and the Speaker is referring to include senators. The order speaks to public sector workers who must be vaccinated. However, the senators pointed out that they are not public sector workers but elected political members of the National Assembly. The senators informed the Speaker that while they supported the WHO and PAHO on the importance of vaccination against COVID, they do not support forced or mandatory vaccination. From Monday, commuters in the east-west corridor in Trinidad will pay higher maxi-taxi fares, up by $2. Route 2 Maxi Association head Lennis Phillip and told Newsday the Port of Spain to Rima fare will move from $8 to $10, the $2 rise typical of long-distance fares, with medium-distance fares up by $1, while the $5 short-dropped fare will remain, but cover shorter distances than before on the priority bus route. Phillips says the changes were listed in a new tariff sheet bearing a signature and the association's stamp, which allow all maxi taxi drivers to publicly display their fare structure. He blamed the fare hike on rising costs of maxi taxi inputs coupled with a sharp drop in earnings during the pandemic. He warned commuters to be very careful in checking that their journey qualified as a short drop, yet also hoped the retention of the $5 fare would help children zoned into nearby schools. Phillips says a maxi owner must change each back tire once per year and each front tire twice per year, with each tire now costing 1,000 Trinidad and Tobago dollars. He says many owners had talked with their banks and the credit unions and was glad most institutions had been very understanding. A potentially life-saving antiviral pill for the treatment of COVID-19 in adults could be soon be used in Barbados and elsewhere in the Caribbean community. Executive Director of the Caribbean Public Health Agency, Dr. Joyce St. John, said that once the drug molnupiravir receives World Health Organization approval, the CARPHA, that's the Caribbean Public Health Agency, will be making it a recommendation for use in CARICOM. The announcement comes a day after drug maker Merck and Company said it would license qualified pharmaceutical firms worldwide to produce the oral medication under an agreement with the United Nations-backed Medicines Patents Pool. It was not immediately clear whether pharmaceutical companies in the Caribbean would be among those in line to produce the pill under the license agreement. Merck said earlier this month that a recent study of molnupiravir showed that it cut hospitalizations and deaths from COVID-19 in half. Molnupiravir, which is still awaiting approval from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, works by blocking the ability of the coronavirus to replicate. If approved, it would be the first COVID-19 treatment in the form of a pill. And now we go to the BBC World Service for the world news.
After a hard day's work, delicious comfort food is all we crave for. There at KFC, they've got you covered with a wide choice of delicious, finger-licking good meals from any of their 9 locations, including the Amazonia Mall at Providence. And there are 6 drive-through locations for your convenience. Their 11 herbs and spices are sure to blow those post-work vibes away every time. It's the perfect way to end a hard day. KFC.
It's finger licking good.
News Talk Radio Guyana 103.1 FM. Radio that educates and entertains.
My name is Ivan Evelyn. I'm the Chief of Protocol in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation. I had the opportunity of taking my second jab of the AstraZeneca vaccine. I thought it best to have the second jab because I know that the risks that are involved are much more disadvantageous to me should I not take the vaccine.
And now here's the world news from the BBC.
I'm Debbie Russ with the BBC News. Saudi Arabia has recalled its ambassador in Lebanon and given the Lebanese envoy in Riyadh 48 hours to leave the country. The decision follows what the Saudis considered insulting statements by Lebanon's information minister Georges Kordahi before he took office. Here's Tom Bateman.
This is a punishing rebuke by Saudi Arabia. It is also extending a ban on Lebanese imports. It turns a smouldering row into a full-blown crisis. The bigger source of Saudi anger is the growing dominance in Lebanon of Hezbollah, the heavily armed Shia movement backed by Iran. Riyadh has always wanted the group's grip diminished. Pulling out ambassadors puts even more pressure on Lebanon. Currently in the midst of such an economic and political crisis, many are wondering how many more blows it can take before a complete collapse.
President Biden and his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron have moved towards mending the fractured diplomatic relations between their countries. The US president said Washington had been clumsy in how it handled the announcement of a submarine deal with Australia that scuppered a previous French arrangement. He added that France was the oldest ally of the US. For his part, Mr. Macron said they were in the process of rebuilding confidence and it was key to look to the future. The United Nations Secretary-General, Antonio Guterres, says the world is heading towards disaster if more is not done to combat climate change at the summit meeting in Glasgow next week. Speaking on the eve of the G20 summit, Mr. Guterres said countries still had miles to go on all their climate goals.
There is a serious risk that Glasgow will not deliver. Several recent climate announcements might leave the impression of a rosier picture. Unfortunately, this is an illusion. We are still careening towards climate catastrophe.
Mr. Guterres said a severe lack of trust between countries was stopping cooperation on tackling the climate crisis. The United States has called on Sudan's security forces to refrain from using violence against mass protests planned for Saturday. The State Department said this would be a test of the military's intentions. Barbara Plett-Usher reports from Washington.
The senior State Department official said Washington was very concerned that the military allow peaceful protests to take place. He said the U.S. estimated between 20 and 30 people had been killed on the 25th of October, the day of the coup. The official told journalists it was a relief that the Prime Minister, Abdullah Hamdok, had since been released, albeit to a form of house arrest. But he said that was not nearly enough. In order to restore U.S. aid and stability in Sudan, there would have to be convincing evidence that the transition to democracy was back on track.
You're listening to the latest world news from the BBC. Thousands of Malians have taken to the streets of the capital Bamako to protest at what they say is foreign interference in the country. The demonstrators denounced the West African regional bloc ECOWAS and the former colonial power France for criticising the military leaders who've staged 2 coups since August last year. The Office of the US Director of National Intelligence has released an updated assessment of the origins of COVID-19, concluding it was not developed as a biological weapon. The intelligence community considers the SARS-CoV-2 virus probably emerged and infected humans through an initial small-scale exposure that occurred no later than November 2019. The Polish Parliament has approved a bill to build a wall along part of its border with Belarus to stop illegal migrants from crossing. It will cost more than $400 million. Critics say it's a waste of money. Jessica Parker is in Brussels.
The plan, it seems, is to try and get it up by the middle of next year. Why is this wall being built? Well, there have been concerns about the number of migrant crossings from Belarus. The regime in Belarus has been accused of basically weaponising migrants in retaliation for sanctions against the regime. And the Polish government has reported a surge in migrants crossing the border. A number of migrants have actually died as well. So this, in the Polish government's view, is the way to deal with that migratory pressure and try to deter migrants.
The Greek Coast Guard says it's carrying out a major rescue in the seas east of Crete after a Turkish-flagged cargo ship with about 400 migrants on board began to have engine difficulties. It says the vessel reportedly sailed from Turkey. A Coast Guard spokesman told the BBC he believed there were Afghans and Pakistanis on board. He said they were safe and the Coast Guard was awaiting instructions from Greece. BBC News.
And now for a recap of the highlights. President Irfan Ali today appeared to back down from his long-held position that he would not be meeting with opposition leader Joseph Harman to discuss key constitutional appointments. Government will circulate draft amendments to Guyana's electoral laws next week. In the region, the Pan American Health Organization has announced new salt reduction targets for food products to help people in the Americas, including the Caribbean, to reduce the consumption of sodium. Opposition senators in Antigua and Barbuda have boycotted Parliament in protest against the COVID-19 vaccine. And Saudi Arabia has recalled its ambassador to Lebanon and given Lebanon's envoy 48 hours to leave Saudi Arabia and announced a stoppage to imports from Lebanon. That's the end of the news. It came to you with the compliments of Kentucky Fried Chicken.
This has been the news, compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom. For ongoing updates, visit demerarawaves.com, and you can check facebook.com/demwaves and twitter.com/demwaves.